Friendships never go out of style.
Oh, you're the best friend anybody's ever had, and it's funny, but I feel as if I've known you all this time, but I couldn't have, could I? If you're not over here in 15 minutes, you can find a new best friend. Welcome to the Best Friends Playbook podcast.
With your hosts, Crystal
And Allie.
We've known each other for over 27 years, and we're here to share our wisdom on friendships in film, TV, and literature.
Grab some coffee, our favorite, and get cozy.
Oh, I was going to look up the people's names. So there's
the character
Jojo.
names? Yeah, Jojo.
There's
and then
Elsa is the girl, the Jewish girl.
Mm-hmm.
But I never looked up the fat boy's name. It sounded like he was saying Yorkie, but I'm not really sure if that's actually his name or if it was something else.
He was so cute.
And then Captain K I got at the end because I kind of wanted to talk about Captain K a little bit.
They did have a special bond, especially because he could have ratted out Elsa and he didn't.
Yeah, I feel like he was like kind of a father figure, mentor person.
Yeah, he also protected him from not getting like
killed,
put in the shooting line.
Let's see. Yorkie. Yeah, it is Yorkie.
Okay.
Good to know. And it's Sam Rockwell. You like when you texted me, I was like, I don't think that's his name. Norman Rockwell's like, I'm pretty sure a writer or an artist.
He's a painter from the 50s.
And I was like, I don't. And then all of a sudden, I think I was watching it later on. I was like, I feel like it's Sam Rockwell.
My brain mixed them up.
It's funny though.
Welcome to another episode of Best Friends Playbook podcast. We have Allie, me,
and Crystal. Hi.
We are doing Jojo Rabbit today.
It's like, I'm not gonna lie, I was thinking about it. Probably my favorite movie from last year. It was last year, right? I should have looked up the date. It was either last year or the year before, but
I'm on IMDb right now. Let me just see what it 2019. So yeah, it did come out last year.
Yeah, I think it came out like at the very end of 2019. So it's slightly over a year ago, but yeah, it's probably one of my favorite movies that came out that year, I would say.
November 8th.
Yes.
I honestly felt like it was earlier in 2019, but that's how weird this past year has been, that nothing makes sense in time.
2020 is just fucking with time in general.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I mean, I guess it's over. Fuck. It's no longer 2020, guys. It's 2021. Move on.
It just feels continuous.
Yes.
So I had not seen this movie until I watched it a few days ago.
Yeah. How did you like it for the first time?
Well, it was funny. I watched it with my boyfriend, Carmichael, and based on how it starts, I was like, I feel very uncomfortable watching this film right now. I was like, it feels like a satire, but he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, to Previ, he has seen the film before. Mm-hmm. So he was trying to not give anything away to me, but I was like, I feel like we're rooting for Hitler and the Nazis.
Yeah.
And I feel really uncomfortable, but it's funny. And he's like, all he said was, in his opinion, he thinks it's the best film about World War II in Europe.
Really? That's funny.
Based on, I guess, like the perspective and how they told the story. And he's like, it's a good win. And I was like, what?
I mean, to be fair, I remember when the previews came out for it and I kept seeing them randomly. I think I even texted you like, hey, do you know what? And I don't think you knew, but I kept seeing them and there was like funny parts in them. But I was like, this kid's a Nazi. Like, I don't know if I can watch a movie like that. I didn't understand it. Here was the problem. It's a great movie. I love it. Like I said, one of my favorites, but I felt like in some aspects, the trailer like was marketing it wrong because it looked funny, but at the same time, they never made it clear that Hitler is this kid's like imaginary best friend. So I was confused as to whether we're supposed to be really laughing at like the real Hitler or what is going on in this movie, right? And the title, very confusing because when you don't know anything about the movie, it's just called Jojo Rabbit. And you're like, well, that sounds like a stupid kid movie, right? So I was super confused. And then when I finally sat down and watched it, I just thought it was so good because it is funny. And after you realize that it's not like a movie rooting for Nazis, it's just like a really cute little kid movie. Not a little kid movie, but about a little kid.
But it has a lot of really adult themes. Yes,
and it has really great serious moments when it needs to. And I think there's not too many, but they're really poignant and really perfect. Almost like I would say like a Zach Braff movie, like it's funny and it's cute. And then when there's like a really serious emotional moment, it's there, but it flows well. It's not
Yeah.
just it's not just all comedy and it's not all drama, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. And Carmichael, he pointed out how like they were very specific on the type of violence. So
Mm,
he honestly feels like it could pass for a PG film,
yeah.
which I think it would be a good film for kids to watch to understand World War II and especially everything that happened in Germany with the Nazis and Hitler and just how bad it was. Because like you guys, if you're listening to this podcast, you're gonna get spoilers right up from the front. Um, it's not what you expect because like Scarlett Johansson, she's I felt like she was working with like the revolution, but Carmichael felt like it was more just her being a good person and helping people out who were a part of it because she wanted the war to end.
Yeah. I mean, they don't really make it very clear.
Yeah.
At the end, they kind of make it sound like it was her like part of the revolution or the whatever you call it. I don't even know. Um, but I also think that it was just she was so sick of a war that had taken her daughter and her husband away,
Hmm.
and her kid is like this super Nazi fanatic, and she just like can't get through his head, right? So that's the thing. I think it's great as at the way it depicts how Nazism like got so many young boys into
Yeah.
it, right? Because all they want to do is be a part of a club and feel like important. And that's exactly what they did. And that's exactly what this kid felt like. So yeah.
Yeah. And I also loved how when they first saw the people in the town square hanging from nooses, which was just awful, but it was important to like present this is how terrible they are. The boy was like, "What did they do?" And I think Scarlett Johansson said like they did
They
what
did.
they could,
Yeah.
and I was just like, "Oh, she is not for the war." And David was just like, Um, but so that was just like a nice little hint. And then um also like how much her shoes were pointed out. So
Hmm.
that when we finally saw that she had been hung and she was caught, like the moment I saw her feet, I was like destroyed. And so
See,
that was just really good filmmaking.
it was, and it wasn't that was like the main, really emotional scene, I'd say. And I thought it
Hmm.
was just so well done because all you see is her shoes, right? And all you see is him crying. Like, there's no words, there's no nothing. You don't
Hmm.
see her face or anything. But I thought it was just really well done. And even the way it was shot, he's following the butterfly, and then all of a sudden he just like is like in line with her shoes and realizes
Hmm.
that he's like where all those people are hung and it's his mom.
Yeah,
It was really good.
it was
But
good. Yeah, so
anyways.
we're focusing on Jojo and his imaginary Hitler friend
And I think that we're just focusing on like Jojo and his friendships because there's
that
like
shape
3 of
him.
them.
Mhm.
Yeah, and one is imaginary, so it's like it's really his inner monologue if you look at it. Like,
Yeah.
so it's really like yes, it is his relationship with his imaginary Hitler BFF who is just, his head. And but then there's like the fat kid, Porky, Yorkie.
Who is just the best character in my opinion. All his
He's
lines are fantastic.
he's so funny. And then his other like doesn't start out as a best friend, but the girl he finds a Jewish girl hiding in his house that his mother is harboring, whatever you want
Mhm.
to call it. And they like slowly become friends. So it's more about those two relationships, I'd say.
Okay, and her name is Elsa or that
Elsa.
Elsa, that's right. But the sister's name who died was Inga,
Yes. Yeah.
which was
And they look
like
pretty similar.
yeah, they do.
Yeah. Um, I mean, and if we just want to talk about it, there's
Yeah.
also the honorable mention of um his like Nazi leader mentor guy named Captain K, I think is what his name is. That's what I remember it as.
Kelsendorf is his full name.
Right. But they call him Captain K, and they like kind of have this weird friendship bond mentorship thing. I think it's really honestly, I think it's honestly just like a father figure for him since his is not there. Um,
Yeah, because I also felt like Captain K. I didn't necessarily feel like part of him was a Nazi, but I think a part of him was just wanted to be a soldier, especially
yeah.
because like he didn't rat out Elsa when the Gestapo was there at the house and she clearly said the wrong birthday. He
Mhm.
also knew that Elsa didn't write the book about Jews. He knew that Jojo did. So he if he was like a real true Nazi in his heart, he would have just let them like take the girl.
Oh yeah. I think he was more like a soldier that like wants to be up in the world, but he just keeps
Yes.
getting pushed down because he's like leading this like Nazi summer camp weekend, and then he's like,
Yeah.
and then
He got
he always says
demoted.
these yes, and then he always says these like things where he's like when he's helping them at the swimming pool, he's like, oh, I'm gonna train these youth guys in like pool aquatic combat. He's like, in case you ever have like a battle in the water or whatever he says. Like,
Yeah, I feel like he just really wanted to be the best soldier he could be, especially when he showed Jojo his illustration of
yeah,
his like perfect military uniform. And
yeah,
I love his like assistant
uh huh,
Finkel,
yeah.
aka Theon Greyjoy from
Yeah.
Game of Thrones. Those two, I honestly believe, were in love with each other. Especially because when we first walk into their office, he's feeding him pie.
Yeah. I think they're like Batman and Robin. Like
It's
they're just like
something. He was very
that kind
like
of
they were very emotionally close with each other, especially when they told Jojo, like, that's copywritten. You can't copy that costume.
yeah.
And then when they
Yeah.
go into battle, he's like behind him with the horn from like the record
Yeah.
player playing the music to make their enemies go
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, on second thought, maybe Captain K is more like a crazy uncle or something
Yeah.
because he's like really just he's so funny. And he
He,
doesn't really treat him like a son. He treats him like a friend.
yeah, he treats him like an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um
So I guess with Jojo and Elsa, theirs is like a weird friendship because Jojo's a kid, but he's been taught because he's a Hitler fanatic to hate Jews.
mhm.
So he's like going out of his way to like find out the truth about Jews and learn about them. And Elsa knows he's just a kid, so she just feeds it to his imagination, which
Yeah.
I gotta say, your husband Jason never told me these things about Jews.
It's so ridiculous. Like
Absolutely ridiculous.
and I think that's why it's so funny because actually some of those things were like used as propaganda back then.
Mhm.
But I love the fact that, like, the first time you see Elsa, right, he finds her in that cupboard in his
Mhm.
sister's old room, and it almost plays out like a horror movie, right? It's like she, like, slowly creeps around the corners and down the stairs, and he's just, like, screaming in terror and
Yeah.
running away, and then, like, she full on, like, assaults him basically, and, like, scares the shit out of him and takes his knife away, so it's just funny because she very much acts like an older sister from the very
Yeah.
beginning.
Totally fucking with him, yeah.
Yeah, and then as it progresses, right, and they experience each other more and more, he's like, "Tell me about, your Jewish kind," and she says ridiculous things like they're attracted to I don't even remember what she says. They're attracted to money and they don't eat food and they can read each other's minds and all kinds of
Yeah,
crazy
she
stuff.
also said they were like bats at one point.
Yeah, that they like hang upside down from the ceiling at night like vampire bats or something like that.
Yeah, my favorite was this was something JoJo had been told, was that, uh, rabbis cut off the tips of penises and stick them in their ears.
That was one of those where this is probably the 3rd or 4th time I've seen that movie. I had never listened to that part before. I was like, "What the fuck did he just say?" I had to rewind it.
Because he, like, mumbles it under his
Yeah.
breath, and she just looks at him like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Yeah. It's so funny. Oh my god. The stuff that they say to each other, it's so funny and so ridiculous, but yeah.
Elsa was such a good actress though because there were certain times where Jojo would say the most like hideous lies. I mean, they were all lies, but and they were all hideous, but some that just went to like an extreme.
That they have horns under their, hair was one of them. He's like, "Where are your horns?" She's like, "Oh, they
Yeah,
don't come in until I'm 18 or whatever,"
an
or something
adult,
like
yeah.
yeah.
But she would just like whenever he just said some awful things, you would just see like how hurt and upset she was about it, and she
Yeah.
just dealt with it, and it really like broke my heart.
Yeah. And I liked that sometimes you'd see like the anger in her face and she'd like let it go and move on.
Mhm.
Sometimes she'd like back with him and then there was one or two times where she just straight up was like pissed and left, right? Like she's just
Mhm.
like, I'm out, goes back to her cupboard, shuts the door kind of thing. Um but they always ended up coming back together and, talking more. Um I like Elsa because I feel like she's the first one to open up when she like shares that she was engaged or that she is
Mhm.
engaged, she says to Nathan. And she like goes into detail about how he proposed and what their plan was. And I feel like it's the first time they really like share anything important with each other. And they're not even
Mhm.
friends yet, but
Yeah.
somehow I don't remember how it gets brought up. But I like that she took like that first step to treat him, I guess, with some kind of respect because he obviously doesn't with her. So
Yeah, and then he writes that really mean letter as if it's from Nathan.
yeah.
And
Hmm.
but then she kind of like she gets hurt, and then she sort of like lets it settle in and knows that it's just him being a little bratty kid. And
Yeah.
she says, "Let me know if you get any more of Nathan's letters." And so they're starting to try it, like starting to find this balance between each other. And
Hmm.
especially I think it helps when she talks to his mom. Is that so?
He's
um
sleeping, so
um
he's it's a dream.
did he catch the rat?
I don't know, but he barked so loud he woke himself up. So
When Luna's dreaming, like you can hear her like tongue or her like teeth chattering sometimes. And I'm like,
that's
did you
funny.
catch the mouse?
That's cute.
um, but his mom, Scarlett Johansson, tells Elsa like he's just a kid. He's only 10. He's a fanatic, unfortunately, due to all the propaganda. And I think that also kind of helps Elsa realize that he doesn't mean to be cruel, like he's being brainwashed. And I feel like that also
Yeah.
helps her start to like learn to love him.
Yeah. And I like that after that first like mean letter that he writes from Nathan, he like immediately goes back and like writes a retractment
Mm-hmm.
letter. Says, "Oh yeah, whatever. I'm not actually dating this other person and I am doing this, blah blah blah, but I am unemployed and I am a piece of shit, basically."
Oh yeah,
But
he's
they just
fat also. He's always
yeah,
fat.
fat and unemployed, I believe, is what
Mhm.
he like says at the end. But yeah, I like that he has these like ongoing letters from Nathan that he reads her. But it's like it's cute, but then later on we learn like eventually she tells him like Nathan's been dead for about a year.
Mhm.
Um, he died of like tuberculosis or whatever. But it was cute because she let him go on for months, just like
Mhm.
writing these letters from Nathan. And I think she really actually enjoyed it because it was a little make believe. It was making her feel like she had a life outside of that shitty little cabinet. So it was cute.
Yeah. And I feel like they help each other grow because he eventually starts to see like the things he's saying are really cruel, and that
Hmm.
Elsa's actually a person, and that Jews aren't these crazy fat devils that just want to steal all your money and do weird things that he's been told.
Yeah. I, it's it's like almost shocking the things that they used to say, right? You're like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god." And I remember here's the funny part is so I saw this movie with Jay, who's my husband, who's Jewish. He's been Jewish his entire life, right? And I'm a converted Jew, but like I obviously never had like slanderous things said at me in the schoolyard or anything like that. So
Mhm.
it was interesting to watch it from his perspective
Mhm.
and to see the way they were treated back then and how people thought of them. When I recommend this movie to people, I don't recommend it to every Jewish person I know. Like, I feel like the elder generation will still not find it very funny, even though I think it is a beautiful movie, and
Mhm.
I do like recommending it to people. But there are certain ones that I think just take it. It's too close to home still. Like not enough years have gone by, so I don't think they would appreciate the humor in it as much. But
Yeah,
I think it's great.
there was a movie that me and my boyfriend had watched, and it dealt with the Cold War, and we were
Mhm.
explaining it to his grandparents who were from Germany, and they immediately were like, "Stop talking about the movie," and we're like, it just takes place during that time. And they were like, no, they didn't want to
Yeah.
talk about it. And so I get it. Like some things are still too sensitive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know how we got on that subject, but
I think it was
uh
just like essentially they're both helping Elsa because she chooses to be kind and understand that he's a kid. She shows him when she's hurt, and then he starts to learn like all the terrible things he's been told about Jews are not true because Elsa is none of those things.
yeah. And like to kind of table that friendship for a second, and go to his like friendship with this imaginary Hitler guy that like from the very beginning, he is right there next to him.
Oh my god, the opening scene. I was like, what did I just watch?
um,
For context,
with the
Hitler is trying to pump up Jojo on
for his day.
how to do a proper
Heil.
Heil Hitler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, just throw it away. Just
Throw it away.
Heil. Like, just
And
throw it
then they're
away.
just
Just,
like shouting it back and forth at
yeah.
each other.
And it's just like, just to get him pumped for his like shitty day of whatever he's about to do. But it's,
His little Nazi kid camp. Oh god,
yeah,
so
oh yeah,
terrible.
that's what he's leaving for. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's it's just hilarious. The Taika Waititi playing Adolf Hitler is just the funniest thing ever, in my opinion. And I didn't even know it was him the first time I saw the movie. I had no idea. I think the second or third time I had like looked it up, and I was like, oh my god, he's just hilarious because
Yeah.
he knows how he's so good at making him so ridiculous and almost childlike, you know. So
Well, and it's
it's
also really funny because when we did our Lord of the Rings reunion video, he was
and
like
he's on
random.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they invited him because he's a Kiwi, which was just random and funny to
yeah.
ask like a few fan questions.
Yeah, I love him. He's so funny, and I can't wait to see the movies that he does next because I know he's kind of like blown up and is supposed to do like Star Wars and
Oh, that's
Avengers
cool.
or something. I
Yeah,
don't know. He has
I
a
was definitely
few
curious
things.
because I didn't know how much his character was involved, and since he was the director and the writer, and I was
Hmm.
like, oh, he was in it just enough to like have fun, but it was a good balance for him as being a director and actor. Because I thought he was in like the whole thing, and I was like, woof.
Yeah, no, no. But I just love him. I don't know. It's my point though. I was bringing it back to this because throughout the movie, as Jojo gets closer to Elsa, the Hitler character gets more and more like angry and aggressive and
And
upset.
very jealous.
Very jealous, yeah. And you know, in the very beginning, they're the best of friends, and like from the moment he meets Elsa, him and Hitler are like planning how they're going to get his knives back, how they're going to get rid of that dirty Jew they call her or whatever they say.
Mhm.
And it's just kind of like this little like plot thing going on, like what are we going to do to her next, kind of a thing. And so as he gets closer and closer to her and actually starts to care for her, Hitler gets more and more pissed. So
Mhm.
it's and that was one of the things that I kind of never really paid attention to before, but like there's some strong jealousy there.
Yeah, like one time Jojo goes down into his room and Hitler's like in his bed keeping it warm for him. And he's
So
like,
weird.
"Were you spending time with her?" And he's like, da, 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 I'm just trying to get information." He's like, "Yeah, whatever." And he's like all passive aggressive.
He's like he's in that bed. Nothing about this is weird.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But it's interesting because he obviously is an imaginary friend, but they still have like this huge arc, which is just showing Jojo's progression of realizing that like he's been told a lot of these lies and that he was brainwashed and none of this stuff is true. And so I think it's a good way for kids to understand like the thought process of that and how a lot of these kids were brainwashed essentially.
Yes. And also it's a great way to portray the arc of Jojo right through
Hmm.
Hitler, because if you notice whenever he's talking to Hitler, he's always saying how amazing Hitler is, right? Like Hitler will be like, "Do I look okay?" And he's like, "You look great. You look
Yeah.
amazing." But when he asks that of Hitler, Hitler will be like, "You look like shit," or like, "Look at your face," you know, because he gets injured, like, "You look terrible." Like
Yeah.
he's his inner dialogue, and he just like kind of hates himself, it sounds like, you know, he's never talking him up.
He calls himself ugly at one point.
Yeah. So Hitler is like constantly putting him down, and he's
Mhm.
constantly like putting Hitler up. But as the story goes on, I think he like really starts to, I guess, have confidence in himself, you know?
Mhm.
So it's really interesting to see because I feel like you don't see that a lot in movies because there aren't a lot of imaginary friends in movies. But
Yeah, and it's like as he gets closer to Elsa, then his relationship starts to get disrupted with Hitler, and also then detaching him more and more from like showing up to the office every day, like the small Nazi office that they had in the town. And he also starts having like less disbelief about the Jews. And then I think when his mom dies, it's kind of sad because him and Elsa are in the window together, and they
hmm
know that the wars, like the Americans and the British are coming, and he says he has no one, but he's leaning on Elsa, so it's almost like he's still struggling to like admit that he cares about her.
yeah. And I don't even think they really admit that they're friends at that point. Like after his mom dies, it kind of has this like montage of them like living together,
Hmm.
but like it doesn't seem like they're bonding. It just seems like they're surviving, honestly. Like he's digging for trash to eat and stuff. And I don't know.
Yeah, but he
It's not a
obviously,
happiness, obviously.
yeah, but he obviously, he's like in denial that he cares about her, and I mean he
hmm
eventually tells, what's his little friend's name,
Yorkie.
Yorkie, that he has a Jew.
Yeah.
And then he starts to like feel better. He gets like a crush on her, which as a kid I totally expect that because it's the only girl he's ever come into contact with. And so I think he's now struggling with, again, his identity, because he wanted to be like this hero Nazi and be Hitler's best friend, but he has Elsa who's Jewish, and he loves her and they get along really well. And so I guess like with their friendship specifically, it's kind of like Legolas and Gimli again, where they've been told specific things about each other and they start to
Yeah.
realize that like they are not
Not
what
true.
they've been told. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm sure Elsa thinks that every Nazi is
Hmm.
just like a horrible, horrible person, right? But here she
Hmm.
is with this like little boy Nazi that just wants to grow up to be a real Nazi and he
Hmm.
can't. So I guess to experience that and realize that they do have feelings, some of them,
Hmm.
and that they're not all horrible, right? So
Yeah, and I think that was kind of like the other example is that like not everyone in Germany was like anti-Nazis or anti-Jews. They just kind of landed in the middle and they just
yeah,
wanted it to be over, but they saw people as people. And
like his
um
mother.
yeah, like
Yeah.
his mom found a way to exist.
Yeah.
Um but I think that it sounds cheesy, but through love, both of them were able to see each other for who they were and not these stereotypes.
Mhm. Um to segue over to Yorkie for a second, because like when I originally picked this movie, I picked it for Hitler and Yorkie, not
Hmm.
thinking about Elsa. And so watching his like progression, Chubby's gonna howl. Can you hear
I can kind of hear
that?
it.
No, Emilio's getting involved. What?
You taught them to do that, right?
I did.
It's a great trick.
But like I didn't now they just do it when they hear a siren. I have no control over it. Okay. All right. Guys, that's enough. We're done. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your input. Thank you. Okay.
Oh
Hey,
my god,
hey.
that's amazing.
Yeah, now it'll just happen randomly. I have no control over it.
I'm
Uh,
dying.
back to it. I was going to
Okay.
talk about Yorkie for a minute. Um, so like I said, I had originally thought of their friendship when I was thinking about Jojo Rabbit. But through watching it, I think their friendship was actually more minor as far as the story.
Hmm.
In the beginning, it's really cute because they like go off to that Nazi weekend youth camp thing together and they share a tent and they have all these great, axe
Hmm.
throwing experiences and guns and whatever. And, not killing a rabbit because that's how he gets his name. He doesn't kill the rabbit.
I didn't even watch that scene. I was pissed.
Yeah. So it's cute because it seems like they're like have been friends for their entire 10 years or,
Mhm.
close to it. But they're like in the tents that night, and Jojo's like kind of fantasizing about how he would become best friends with Hitler, right? Like he's going to bring Hitler something, I don't remember, a Jew or something that he found. I don't remember what he
Probably.
said exactly, but he's like, that'd be so cool. And then I could be by Hitler's side. I'll be his best friend. And Yorkie's like, I thought I was your best friend, man. And he goes, no, number one is saved for the Fuhrer. You could be number two. And he's like, oh, okay, I guess that's cool, whatever. But as their like friendship, well, okay, so then like the next day, Jojo gets like seriously injured at this camp and can no longer like be a soldier. So like their paths kind of like, separate, and you see this kid here and there, but not as much. But every time they see each other, they're always like, Jojo, Yorkie, and they hug and they talk, and Yorkie's always like super positive. Like when Jojo tells him that he has this Jewish girl, he's like, oh wow, that's great. Watch out for those Russians though. They eat people. Stuff
Yeah,
like
he's
that. Like,
he's like, "That's not your problem.
yeah.
It's not that bad. You
Yeah,
should
he's
be
like, oh, that's
concerned about the
cool.
Russians."
Yeah, and then like the next time they meet later, this is like way later in the movie, right? But he's meets up with Yorkie, and Yorkie's like, how's that Jewish girl? And he's like, oh yeah, we're basically girlfriend and boyfriend now. And he's like, oh, that's great. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't care that she's Jewish at all or anything like that.
Well, and that's I
But
think the biggest like point to make about their friendship is that like they're little kids and they were both essentially fighting for the Nazi side. But Yorkie like he's just living his life. He
mhm.
doesn't like he's just being told lies and he believes them. So
Yeah.
he's like this is what we have to do because he also says at some point that like British people eat dogs and they're
Mhm.
coming to eat us also.
Yeah. And he
So
says something about the Russians like eating people and like fucking animals or something
yeah,
terrible
so
like that. And you're like, what?
So he's just trying to like survive and
Yeah.
and so I kind of just like that their friendship is very simple and there's no judgment that like Jojo has a I'm quoting a Jewish girlfriend cuz Elsa's not actually his
Not his
girlfriend.
girlfriend at all. Totally made up. Yeah.
But Yorkie doesn't care. He's like I still love you. You're my friend. Like he doesn't I don't even think he necessarily sees Jewish people as an enemy. He's more like scared of them, but he doesn't like judge them or mock them in like the cruel way that the rest of the Nazis and the Gestapo does. So I feel like Yorkie's a really good friend because he loves his friend no matter how he lives his life.
Yes. And I would label him as just like a basic soldier, right? He's
Hmm.
just doing what he knows he's supposed to do. He's just following the
Survival.
rules. Yeah,
Hmm.
he's just doing what he's supposed to. He shows up. What I think is interesting though is like JoJo so desperately wanted to be what Yorkie becomes,
Hmm.
but you never like see any kind of jealousy from Jojo whenever he does see Yorkie. It's always just like excitement and let's talk about it. And he gets all of his news from Yorkie about the war. Um, and then
Fucking
at the
Rebel Wilson handing off guns to like
yeah,
10-year-old
here, take this. And she gives that one kid that grenade. Here, go give that guy a hug or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god.
She's sending him off to his death, and he's
Yeah,
10 years
it's
old.
so bad. But it's funny that you say that because that's the scene I was thinking of is when he sees Yorkie that time. It's when like the war has officially come to their little town.
Yeah.
And so like the town starts getting bombed and Rebel Wilson's handing out guns to all those little soldier kids. You notice she doesn't give Jojo one and he just kind of wanders the streets and experiences it and watches it happen. And
Well, no, she's about to. She gives him a jacket, and
yeah, but
then
not a gun.
no, I think because she was giving them grenades, but then they get blown up. Like she literally gets blown up right as she's about to give him a grenade.
I don't remember that, but I remember she like puts the jacket on him so that they know that he's a Nazi, and then she like grabs this giant gun and goes around the corner and starts shooting
Oh,
stuff.
that's what it is.
And then I don't know if she gets blown up but a bomb hits, and that's like
Yeah.
when the kind of shell shockness happens to him, and he's just
Hmm.
walking through the streets, experiencing it. But if you notice, his child side comes out. He's not meant for
Hmm.
warfare. He's freaked out. He goes and he hides.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, see, kid, you weren't ever supposed to be a fucking soldier. Like, this isn't what
Hmm.
you want. This isn't like what you wanted to fight for, is it? Seeing all of his friends die, all of those kids go to war. It was like a really good, serious moment and kind of really depressing because that's I mean, there's a lot of kids that were a part of that back then. They may have not actually fought, but they thought they were fighting, right? They thought they were like making a real impact. So
Yeah, I mean, Yorkie basically says he's not meant for war and that he wants to go home to his mom because he needs a cuddle.
yeah, so cute. That little kid, man.
It was really cute, but it's such a good example of like they shouldn't have done that to the kids. Like they're not meant for that.
No.
And
But that I
then
mean, like, there really isn't a an arc with their friendship, like,
no,
I like them, they're a cute friendship, but, it really is just kind of like lifelong friends, just we see each other and we had these kind of commonalities in our Nazism, but, whatever, we could both throw it aside and just keep living without it.
yeah, exactly. Like the focus is definitely with him and Elsa. So after this happens, he's like, "Oh God, Elsa can be free," and he decides to go back and be a little twat and tell her that like the war wasn't won. And then
He doesn't wanna lose her.
yeah, and then he realizes he was a twat and then says, "I'm gonna help you escape." And then it's kind of messed up, but it's also kind of cute that he lets her go outside and experience the truth for herself.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, as it was happening, and I was thinking, "God, if that was me, if I was her, I think I would have been too afraid to go outside." Like, can you imagine, like, having the courage to, like, think that the Nazis won and you're about to just walk outside and never go back in that cupboard again and try and escape, and the fact that she walks out at all,
Well,
it's
and then I
crazy.
was like, if they don't dance, this movie's terrible. Because
Yeah.
he asked Elsa, if you get to be free, what's the first thing you're gonna do? And she says dance. And they fucking danced.
Yeah, in the
It's a
street,
it's a
I
good
know.
movie.
I thought it was really cute, though, the way cute in a horrible way, right? But that
Hmm.
he lies to her and says that the Nazis won and you can't be free.
Hmm.
Um, because he just doesn't wanna let her go. It's sad. They're both, like, complete orphans now, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's lost his mother, his father, his sister. She says at one point another time where they are, bonding, looking out the window, she says that, she saw her parents get on a train and they went to a place where they're never coming back.
Hmm.
Um, so they really only have each other now because we know that her fiancé died too, so
And I can't remember if it was before the war, during, or after, but at some point they both tell each other they love each other. She's obviously like, I love you as a brother, because he's like, I'm in love with you.
yeah, yeah. That's right, he does confess that he, like, loves her, and he gets the
Yeah.
little butterflies, and it's cute, but
Yeah.
and yeah, she's like, "I love you as little brother." Yeah.
But I like that they eventually have gotten to that point where they do love each other for who they are, and he eventually gets it out of his head because then he goes downstairs and he tells well, Hitler is yelling at him to put the swastika on, and he's like, "No, fuck you!" And then it's a great victory for the Jews as he kicks him out the window.
Yes, and that's, yeah, those, like, last 2 or 3 scenes with Hitler, right? He becomes just, like, a total ass.
Yeah,
He's doing his weird not weird, but, like, angry orator voice, and he's just, like, bitching at him to do this, do that, blah, blah, blah. "You're gonna get up, you're gonna be a fucking Nazi, you're gonna put that swastika on, blah, 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 whatever," and you don't like him by the end, right? Because I
yeah.
I thought he was hilarious in the beginning.
Which
I
is
don't
why
say I
it
liked Hitler, but I liked the way they were portraying him,
yes,
okay? It was funny.
which is why I felt uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm enjoying this and I shouldn't be. This is wrong.
Yeah, exactly. But by the end, you're like, "Fuck that guy." Yeah,
Yeah.
kick him out the window. So
Um, and then this is just like a side thing. I loved all the mockery of the Nazis, especially the moment where when the Gestapo comes and they all
yeah.
like heil. And
Yes.
then
So awkward.
when Captain K and I'm gonna call him Theon because that's all I called him when I was
It's
watching the
Theon,
movie.
yes.
He's
Yeah.
Theon. When he came, they each separately heiled.
Yeah.
And
So
then when they met Elsa upstairs, they all heiled again, and I was like,
yeah.
"Oh,
It's so like watching 8 people in a room go, "Heil, Heil Hitler, Heil Hitler,
yeah,
Heil," like to each of them, and they do it like they're so bored, by the way, like, Heil Hitler,
yeah."
Heil Hitler." It's like so
But it was
weird.
just like I really appreciated all the mockery they put towards that
Yeah.
all those awful people and just how ridiculous and obnoxious and terrible they were.
The really tall, like, main one in the Gestapo, the tall blonde guy.
He's such a great comedian.
he was so funny in this movie, like, when he goes upstairs and he finds that book and he's like, "Oh, look at this. Who's this Nathan kid? Why is he getting
Yeah.
shot out of a cannon? Nathan roasting on a spit." He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is hilarious." You know?
I know, I think they took the
So
book because
funny.
they were so excited about it.
He was so funny. I loved that character. Like,
Yeah.
but he's great too because he looks evil. Like when
Yeah.
you see like traditional World War II movies that have Nazis, it's like they're almost borderline crazy, you know, like they smile, but he'll fucking kill you right here and now. Like
Yeah.
that's what he looks like. So
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So I think this movie was a great example, like I said, similar to Legolas and Gimli, where two people from opposing backgrounds are brainwashed into thinking their own kind is terrible. And
Mhm.
then through like love and seeing that each other's differences are what makes them unique, they're able to find a friendship out of it. Or for them, they became family.
Yeah. And all their similarities, like,
Yeah.
yes, they have differences, but honest to God, like they have way more similarities than anything. They're both orphans, they're both
Mhm.
children being forced into like shitty situations where they really don't get to be kids anymore. I mean,
Mhm.
so
And they also
they're
just
great.
both wanted to be accepted.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. That was a really good movie overall. Like I said, I'm one of my favorites for
Yeah,
sure.
is a good one. It's also a good there's a lot of hard stuff to swallow in it because of how harsh it is, but it's still a good victory film. Kind of like
Mhm.
an Inglorious Bastards when uh
They kill Hitler.
Quentin like has the theater blow up. It's a good
Yeah.
victory film.
Yes, I would agree with that. I wish more people would see it. I don't know if anybody else has, but I love it. I think
I
it's
think it's
hilarious.
hard because I think they wanted in the trailer to not give away the twist because I was definitely surprised about like Scarlett Johansson and that it was really upsetting when they hung her and stuff. So I think they were trying to like not tell you the whole story, but I almost wonder if they should have put little snippets in there because maybe people were turned off by it.
I mean, honestly, I agree, but I think that the subject matter is just so taboo anyways that I don't
Yeah.
know how they could have possibly marketed it
Yeah, it's
better.
hard.
It's just something you gotta sit down and watch. But because you brought up Scarlett Johansson, I gotta bring up one other part that I noticed that I'd never noticed before. Um, so like in the beginning of this movie, Jojo and his mom, like, yes, they're like friends, but they have a lot of differences, right? Like
Mhm.
she's very not about this war, wants to get it over with, wants him to be a kid, and he's very like, no, I want to be a Nazi and we got to do this and whatever. But they like slowly they have a couple really good scenes where they really bond, and one of them is where they're biking down to like the river, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And when they're down at that river levee bridge thing, they're like talking, and she's talking about how great it is to be a kid or whatever. And all of a sudden, like Hitler appears out from like over way over on like the little bridge, and he has this little like fake
Yeah.
binoculars, and he looks pissed. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I realized he's in a way like he's trying to keep him separate from his mom, right? Because his mom could pull him back away from that Nazism. And she kind of is in that moment. And he's like, no, fuck you. I don't want you to be with your mom. I want you to be with me, kind of a thing. So another great like jealousy moment for the Hitler character.
Yeah, because his mom in that moment is trying to remind him like how important it is to be a kid and he should be doing kid things rather than trying to be a soldier. And so Hitler's
Mhm.
up there, he's like, no, no, she's brainwashing
No.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those little fake binoculars.
Yeah.
So
Oh, he was
funny.
such a brat. It was also like such a small thing, but like at the end when the war had been lost and his friend tells him that Hitler killed himself, and then when he sees Hitler again, you see like the gun wound in his head.
Yeah, that part, I'm not gonna lie, kind of freaky. I don't like that part when you
Yeah.
see like because you can see the hole and then you can see like it's not graphic, but there's like a big blood hole kind of over here.
Mhm.
And that's kind of when he's all crazy right at the end, but
Yeah.
um so many
Oh,
great funny parts though, just like Hitler swimming in the swimming pool. That's just so fucking funny.
yeah.
Uh I don't know.
Well, and
Some
then I
and
know
he
you
just
I wanted to wrap up Captain K really quick. 'Cause remember
oh
you
yeah.
wanted to give him like an honorable mention. So
Yes.
towards the end, because Rebel Wilson put the Nazi jacket on Jojo, when he's trying to get back home, a U.S. military person grabs him and takes him like we're in a like a prison area, and Captain K's there, and he tells Jojo
Like a
that his
POW
yeah,
area, kind of. Yeah.
and Captain K tells Jojo that like his mom was a really good person and that she did really good things,
Mhm.
and um essentially just like he needs to go live his life, so he takes the jacket off Jojo, and then he
Like,
starts
rips it off of him.
he starts
Yeah.
pushing him away and saying that he's a Jew and he doesn't want to be near him, and so the soldier's like, what are you doing? And Jojo's like so confused, but Captain K was once again protecting him, and he
Mhm.
didn't want him to die, and he wanted him to live his life, which was just another moment of him really caring about him as a person.
Yeah, he, like, literally sacrificed himself when he did that because he, like, pushed him down, spat on him, called him a Jew, said, "Get out of here." And then
Mhm.
when the American soldier comes over, he's like, "I don't want that Jew near me," kind of thing. And the guy
Mhm.
immediately pulls him off and shoots him. So, I mean, they don't show it, but you can hear it as he's
Yeah.
running away. They shoot him. Um, but it was, yeah, really cute because in a way, throughout the movie, he's kind of always um not keeping tabs on him, but after that big accident at
Mhm.
the youth camp, which was under his
Supervision.
jurisdiction or
Yeah.
supervision, after that, he kind of feels like he has to, right? And the mom kind
Mhm.
of makes him take care of this kid. Like she'll drop him off at that
Mhm.
office that Captain K works at. And so I feel like throughout the movie, he just feels very responsible for him. And
Well, and I honestly think that when the Gestapo shows up at Jojo's house, I think that Captain K knew or like saw them going over there because he heard stuff maybe about his mom. Because why did they show up? I think he goes over there to keep an eye on Jojo and protect him.
I know I wonder that too, because if
It's
you
just too
notice,
ironic.
you never see the mom after that. So either
Yeah.
she's already hung and the
Hmm.
and Captain K knows and goes over there and the Gestapo happened to be there, or he sees them go and just follows and then she gets hung. They don't really
Hmm.
specify, but um yeah, why else would he show up there? Like he never shows
Hmm.
up there at his house before then. So
Yeah. So I
sure
think
he's
that
just
was definitely a sign, another sign of him protecting him.
yeah.
Hmm.
He's a good character. I really enjoyed him.
Yeah.
He's so funny.
Yeah.
Good little mentorship.
Hmm.
Not
Well,
even really though, but
I
whatever.
know. Yeah. He just kind of keeps an eye on him. But yeah, I think that's everything for Jojo Rabbit. You should definitely go watch the movie. There's a lot that you can learn, and it's humor is important when it comes to terrible, sad things.
I think it's always important to view them in other ways, right?
Hmm.
Like almost every World War movie you see is always sad, always dramatic.
Hmm.
Um, and it's okay to like find some humor in it or to put some humor in it.
I think
You know,
humor is important to life during tragedy.
yeah.
Hmm.
That's why that one movie is so great. Do you know what I'm talking about? I think it's an Italian movie about World War II.
Life
Beautiful Life is
was
beautiful.
beautiful.
I was gonna say A Beautiful Life, but that's the Christmas movie, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think
Isn't it
it's.
Life is Beautiful?
I think so. I'm gonna look it
I
up right
have it
now.
here somewhere, but I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head. Um,
Yeah,
but that's
life
a
is
great one.
beautiful.
Yeah, and that's
Um.
a great one for
Mhm.
that exact reason because they put a little humor, a lot of positivity in it, even though he's like in a concentration camp, isn't he? I feel
He
like.
eventually gets sent to a concentration camp. So yeah,
Yeah.
he's an Italian Jew, but
Yeah.
he basically makes it a game for his kid. He just pretends everything is
Yes.
pretend, and it's a game to protect his son and to keep his spirits and hopes up.
Yeah, and that's what an Oscar winning or nominated
Hmm.
movie. Totally different, right? I mean, this is a joking
It's more of a
kind of
satire
childish,
piece. Yeah.
yeah, childish movie. But I think it's always good to view things not just in one-sided dramatic or comedy or whatever. So,
Yeah. Agreed.
yeah. Yeah,
Well, thanks for
this was
listening to
fun.
this episode of Jojo Rabbit. Yeah, stay tuned for more episodes from season 3, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Woohoo. Bye.
Bye.
She's my friend because we know what it's like for people to be jealous of us.
It's so nice when you can sit with someone and not have to talk. You and I are a team. Nothing is more important than our friendship. Thank you for listening to the Best Friends Playbook podcast. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
You can also email us episode suggestions at bestfriendsplaybook@gmail.com. And if you could please leave us a review on iTunes, it helps us greatly to grow our podcast.